I bet I've killed more orchids than you. I guarantee it. I have 400 left. I've probably killed at least 100, probably more. So today, we're going to show some best practices. We're going to show some ways to not kill your orchids. By the time this is over, your orchids are going to say to you, thank you, thank you. We don't have to die because Dave showed you how to make us not die. Okay, this is an important one. I've lost a lot of orchids because of this. You don't want to put orchids directly on the ground. You don't want to take the pot and put it directly on the ground. Now, why is this? Airflow needs to be flowing. If it's not flowing, you're going to run into bugs and fungus. If you can see this guy, do you see the fungus on the tips and everything? I had this sitting directly on the ground, and that's a bad idea. I had several sitting on the ground, and they all had the exact same problem. They all started to have this fungus. I've also found that Oncidium are very, very prone to funguses. Fungi, funguses. So be careful. If you have an Oncidium, be extra careful because they love to get funguses, fungi. So be careful. Here's probably the best way to make an orchid really mad at you, and that is to mess with it. Orchids do not like to be messed with, especially Cattleya. What do I mean by that? I try to, as little as possible, mess with the roots of a Cattleya. As little as possible, repot them. Because if you do, you're probably not going to get a Cattleya from it for a couple years. If you see this, this is called a why not. If you see how like crazy this thing looks, it's even broken on this side, and you might say to yourself, well, Dave, just kind of peel off the pot and put it into a new pot. I mean, I could, but it's going to set it back a year. You probably won't get a flower the next year. They don't like it. Look, it's pretty. Some things are pretty broken, right? Not everything has to be perfect. That's very philosophical. All right, next tip. I'm a dummy. This might go without saying, but if you buy an orchid, do not forget it in your car. Because I bought an orchid and now it is, I mean, all dried up, and look how pretty it is. It's like a perfect plant and a dried up dead flower. I've forgiven myself. It was hard, but I've forgiven myself. So you'd be surprised at how quickly orchids get mad at you in a car, especially a hot car. So if you have an orchid or orchids and you're coming home from the store, as soon as you get home, take them out of the car and put them on your back lanai or whatever it might be. You want, I mean, think about this. They don't want to be like in their nice, happy greenhouse that they've grown up in and then thrown in a car where they have to stay for 2 days. Don't do that, they'll die. So let's say they're thrown in a car, they're taken out, you throw them on your kitchen table, and it's like 72 degrees in there and dry air, it's air conditioned. They don't like that. You want to take them as quickly as possible from the environment they grew up in to the environment they grew up in. So I take my orchids, and as quickly as possible, unless I forget, I put them on my lanai, which is very similar to the environment that they grew up in. Man, I thought it would be hard to find examples of things I've done wrong with orchids, and unfortunately, it's way easier than I thought it was going to be. So, next thing, Cattleya. I was so excited. It bloomed, and I wonder if you can see this. See how it's all like beat up looking? Those are thrips. Thrips are evil. If you're an orchid person, you know what I'm talking about. They're tiny little bugs. You can't even see them. They're very difficult to get rid of. They're everywhere, no matter what, out in nature. So you're basically just constantly pushing them back. So I sprayed the whole thing with orthene about a month ago because that's like nuclear bomb chemical, figuring that I'd be fine. So everything died, but wait, there were eggs. There were little thrip eggs that did not die, and then the little thrip eggs turned into thrips, and then it turned all of my flowers ugly, especially my Vanda and my Cattleya, and I'm mad. So today I sprayed everything with Spinosad, Spinosad, which is another effective thrip thing. But apparently, when you have an infestation like I do, you got to hit it every week for, I guess, 4 or 5 weeks to get the adults and the eggs and blah, blah, blah. So thrips, evil. If you start seeing Vandas, especially, and Cattleya especially, look a little beat up like that, like they're dried out and eaten, and that's what it is. Almost any time you see an orchid look beat up, almost every time it's thrips. So figure out how to kill them. It's basically orthine, spinosad. Those are the two big ones. I don't know. Look it up on ChatGPT. It'll tell you. All right. Next way to kill an orchid is to get an orchid that does not grow in your environment. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to save this one. This is a Paphapetalum, I think you pronounce it. But like in this Southwest Florida environment, it's just not what it grows in naturally. So you really have to make an effort to adjust your environment to make it happy. I don't even know what the environment is. Quite frankly, I'm done with these stupid things. But just make sure, if you live in North Dakota in the winter, do not put a Vanda on your back porch. You always, like all the advice I give you, be aware. In my environment, it is in the 90s from March until November. And it is like a monsoon from July until September, and then it is like dead dry from November until like April or May. So I have a very specific environment, and if yours isn't exactly the same, look at my shirt. That's the Florida Gators, and that's where my daughter goes. We love her, and she does some photography for the football team, who then they played yesterday. So I had to represent, wear my Gators shirt. Okay, when people, I get this all the time, they see this and they go, oh my goodness, I must have some sort of infestation. My leaf looks like all black and yellow. It's this nice Cattleya and everything looks happy, but this one leaf looks horrible, and what am I going to do? Well, just like people, mature Cattleya, as they get older, things start to fall off of them. So it's just an old leaf. It's okay. It'll come off. Oh, it came off. See, it's just old. It just wants to come off, just like Grandpa. This is an example of overpotting. Look how this thing is freaking dead. Look at this thing. It's supposed to be a Dendrobium, but orchids do not like big pots generally because they want to dry out quickly. Almost every kind of orchid likes to get wet and then dry out quickly. So if your pot is too big, like what I just showed you, they're not happy. For several reasons. There's some biological reasons, but the main reason is moisture. They have some issues with growth patterns, but the main issue is moisture. So big pot bad. Sometimes you can't believe how tiny of a pot you can jam these things into, and they're super happy. You say to yourself, how is that possible? How could any plant be so happy in such this tiny little pot? I don't know what to tell you. It just is. This is a Dendrobium. Okay. Happy. I mean, look how big this thing is. It's huge. Now, this thing's probably in a massive pot, right? Because it's such a big plant. Look at this. Look at this. It's a little pot. It's a little pot. In fact, you could probably even jam this thing in a smaller pot. I've seen some Dendrobium that are even bigger than this in a smaller pot. Small pot, good. Big pot, bad. For almost every kind of orchid. Okay, this is another good example of thrips. So this is a Dendrobium. And I get so excited because I like this color. But can you see how it had a couple flowers and then one kind of looked sad and then everything else stopped? This one's all brown. All of these should have flowers like up the whole stem. They're so pretty. They have a million flowers, but Thrips got them. Thrips got them. And once they get a hold of these things, all these flowers are going to die, and you're not going to get anything until the next season. This isn't a mistake per se. It's probably going to upset almost everyone watching this. Okay, let's look at this guy. It's a Vanda of some sort. I can't pronounce that. Arides. Anyway, not real happy looking, right? It has this dead looking long stalk, and it starts to get green again at the top. And then, there's a root there. Looks pretty happy. When you see a stem like that, it usually means it has something called fusarium, which is a fungus that gets inside like the stem, and you basically can't kill it. If you cut the stem open, you'd probably see like a little purple ring. So once it looks like this, it's tough. I know it's tough, but every year I probably just throw away maybe 5% of the collection just because they look like crap. And it's just part of what you got to come to terms with it. You got to do it. So let's see here. Let's watch this. Here we go. I know this is painful. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to watch that. Okay, here's another. It's not really a mistake, but so there's this rule in the orchid world that you have to keep the orchids somewhat far apart because you need airflow. You don't want them so close to each other that they transfer fungi and bacteria and thrips and stuff. So the saying is, you should have a cat. It should be a cat should be able to walk between the pots. This is Stinky. Stinky tests. Make sure everything's far enough apart. They're not. I don't have enough room. But get a cat, and that will help you gauge things. Okay, this isn't necessarily a way to not kill orchids, but it's a way to just be happier. Because remember, I had this one before that I kept in the car, and it's all dry looking and sad. So what happens is these flowers on any orchid take a tremendous amount of energy. So the orchid plant's not going to grow. Nothing's going to happen to an orchid plant, the green part, when there's a flower, because all the energy is going into the flower. So if you get it like a half dying flower, my mother-in-law, this like half kills her. What I do usually is just, I break it off. Because what that's going to do is it's going to give me another flower much, much sooner. You can put this in a glass of water. You can do whatever you want with it. But this is a big tip, because I know you want to keep these flowers as long as possible and enjoy them. But by knocking them off when they're half dead, you will get a new flower a couple months earlier. Well, I guess that's all I have for today. Check out this bad boy. This is a bulbophyllum medusae, Medusae. Look at this thing. Cool. I've never had one bloom this well before. I guess I'll do a bulbophyllum video at some point, but I haven't really mastered them, so I don't want to give you bad advice. Well, thank you, Dave's Orchid Oasis family. Hang in there. I'll post videos here and there as my brain has new ideas.